Welcome to the spookiest tour in New Orleans history. On this tour, we will take you on a journey into the darker side of New Orleans, revealing the three most haunted spots in the Crescent City. First up is the grave of the most famous voodoo queen, Marie Laveau. Marie Laveau, legend has it, is buried in the St. Louis Cemetery. She died on June 11th in 1879. Her grave is titled the Unmarked Voodoo Grave. Marie Laveau herself is said to converse with her followers through the walls of her oven tomb. Talk about spooky. Her faithful followers also mark her grave with 3 red X's. Legend has it that these X's bring those who make them good luck and their enemies bad luck. Her spooky European-style grave is sure to give you goosebumps, and if you choose to leave 3 X's, it'll give you eternal luck. Just to give you a little background, Marie Laveau was born a free woman of color. She was a Catholic and attended church every Sunday. Her title as the Voodoo Queen started when Marie worked as a nurse for yellow fever patients. She would make her potions and remedies to help heal them, but in most cases, she would sit with them till their deathbed. Tragically, Marie Laveau's first husband mysteriously disappeared 6 months after they were married. She soon had a common law marriage with Christophe Galpion, whom she shared 15 children with. Marie Laveau, the Voodoo Queen, is a must-see New Orleans tomb. Be sure to visit her. Your hair will stand up on its end.
The house at 1140 Royal Street is one of the most famous haunted landmarks in all of New Orleans. Though this famous house is now home to several upscale condos, the halls are still said to be haunted by the ghosts of tortured slaves. As legend has it, the house at 1140 Royal Street was once a famous social landmark in all of the city. Madame Lalaurie and her third husband, Dr. Louis Lalaurie, were known for their lavish balls and cocktail parties. It is said that one night, Madame Lalaurie was heard screaming, and was then found chasing a young slave girl around the house with a whip. To escape her horrid mistress, the young slave girl climbed onto the roof and fatally jumped. She was buried in an unmarked grave behind the house. This event, however, did not stop Madame Lalaurie. A year later, the Lalauries were hosting one of their lavish parties when a fire broke out in the kitchen. Party attendees tried to put out the quickly burning fire, and in the process, they discovered a secret room behind the kitchen. Upon exploration, they found out that the room contained the twisted and tormented remains of dozens of slaves, all in various conditions and stages of starvation. During the chaos of the discovery, the Lalauries were all able to escape the angry mob and to eventually make passage to France. It is said that these tortured souls still haunt the halls of 1140 Royal Street.
On the corner of Orleans and Dauphine Street stands a 4-story house. Before the Civil War, this house belonged to a man known as Mr. Lapret. Mr. Lapret was heavily invested in Confederate banks. When the Union captured New Orleans, he lost all of his money, and so needed to sell his home. It was not long before he was approached by a foreigner wearing a turban. The man claimed to be an emissary for a Turkish sultan who was wishing to buy the house. The sultan was willing to pay in gold. Mr. Lapret quickly made negotiations to sell the house at 716 Dauphine, as gold was a most welcome commodity. Now, The Sultan had many wives and many children from his many wives. He even had a small army of eunuchs to guard him and protect his harem. Now, this Sultan was as extravagant as they come, and threw many, many splendid and wonderful parties. The house itself was never quiet, day or night, and often reeked of opium and incense. 2 years after the Sultan moved into the home, a woman who lived in a neighboring house was strolling by one early morning. As she passed the corner, she noticed that for the first time in 2 years, the home was quiet. No laughter, no music. She stood for a moment and strained to hear any sign of life. She slowly became aware that there was a dripping coming off the gallery. Looking up, she realized that it was blood. When she ran around to the front door, she observed blood pooling from underneath. When the situation was reported to the police, they quickly entered the house. As they opened the doors, police saw blood trailing down the halls. They noticed arms, heads, legs, torsos strewn about. Every member of the household had been cut into pieces. Women, children, eunuchs alike were all butchered into unrecognizable parts. They were cut into so many pieces that they had to count heads in order to get an accurate body count. The Sultan's body was the only one that had not been cut up. He was found in a shallow grave, one hand reaching through the freshly dug dirt. When they retrieved his body, there was so much soil shoved into his mouth, it was only assumed that he was buried alive. The murder of the Sultan and his family is the biggest mass murder mystery in the city's history. No one knows who committed the murders. It is said the Sultan roams the corners of Dauphine and Orleans Street. We hope you have enjoyed our haunted tour of the Crescent City.